The woman found something strange when she was eating. She realized that her husband would quickly remove the meat from the steak every time he ate it. But the woman didn't expect that her husband used dozens of living creatures to make her envious knife. In the 30-odd years after the marriage, Nick transformed his basement into a cage. The victim has made countless noises here, but he took the sound as the most moving note. And because of the special nature of his work, his wife has never stepped into the basement. Every time, he would only send food to the door. But until the arrival of the woman's best friend, he broke the calm as before. Her best friend reminded her that she must be careful with a man who is always gossiping after marriage, because those so-called mysterious men often have shady deals behind them. Her best friend jokingly said to Nick. This sentence also made Nick nervous. However, in the next few days, the wife lost contact with her best friend. She seemed to have disappeared from the world. The police searched for a few days without any clues. Nick was shocked after hearing it, but the woman probably didn't expect that her best friend had become a dog. She was thrown into the basement by Nick. Maybe this is the real curiosity that killed the cat. Her best friend didn't believe it. Nick found a murderous man who was scary, but Nick didn't kill her directly. After being shocked by the injection, Nick slowly put the blood of the woman into a drop. In the process, let the other party experience the closeness of the dead god. Finally, he took out the most meaningful bone. He will extract all the blood from the bone, then inject a large amount of chemicals. After a high concentration of saline, in addition to being able to see that this bone is human, all the information inside is cleaned up. There is no valuable information left. Nick has almost perfect insight. Even a tiny eyelash can't escape his eyes. After doing all this, he packed his work. He sent it to his friend in the form of a courier. He didn't forget to leave his signature. This also made him famous in the outside world. When the police began to test the bone, they couldn't find any valuable clues. Fortunately, they did an investigation on the delivery man. It was also the first time in the surveillance of the courier station to see true face of the killer. Although they didn't see the man's true face, but Nick is very sure that this is the goal they have been looking for, because even if the other party turns into ash, he won't forget the body of the killer. And Nick's life is also because of the other party. In the process of rescuing the hostage 3 years ago, although he successfully judged the shadow of the bag, but still underestimated the murderous man. This IQ is as high as 180. Also because of the severe deformation of the spine, caused a life sentence. And after the killer provoked him in front of him, he didn't forget to humiliate Lincoln's self-esteem. But, after doing this case, he disappeared for 3 years, until that bone appeared on that day. Lincoln knew that the killer was back again. Soon they found out in the surveillance. The cell phone model used by the other party is very rare. The police soon separated the two bodies, although they can't find out the identity of the user. But through the tracking of the base station, they got the final destination of the killer, and Lincoln also understood that. This is the signal given by the killer. Now he's back in this city again. It means that the final battle between the two is coming. The next day, Nick prepared a gift for him. He gave the man an injection of hotwinia, make him paralyzed in a conscious state. Finally, he was put into a large amount of vodka, until the man was choked to death by the alcohol. Before he left, he took a picture of his own work. When the police arrived at the scene, the victim had already lost his breath. But Lincoln knew the identity of the victim. It was his own college teacher. It was also the only subject that failed him. This is obviously a mockery of Lincoln, and he still has a book of his own, according to the habit of the victim. Soon the police found the clue left to them. In addition to a dollar pressed by the ivory, the scene also left the unfinished hotwinia. In addition, there was only a large amount of vomit on the victim. They tested the unhardened turtle meat from the inside, but this seems to have nothing to do with the clue. Lincoln found the killer who wanted to give him a hint. At that time, people mistakenly thought that the fake teeth of President Washington were made of wood. Until he praised his subordinates with a sea turtle feast, people only knew that it was made of ivory. And the place where the dinner was held at the time, it is a bar that still operates to this day. At this time, Nick was preparing for the second night here. The man was tied in the kitchen after being choked to death, then opened the 2 white flowers in front of him. Before he left, Nick still didn't forget to leave a memento for himself. Soon the police found it according to Lincoln's deductions, but because it was full of harmful gas, they could only protect themselves. At this time, the victim had already lost his breath. His whole skin was severely burned by the extremely low gas. He still had a bookmark of this Lincoln, although he didn't recognize the dead this time, but it was obviously the hands of the killer. In addition to finding a knife on the ground, the female police also found clues in the man's mouth. After the police's test, they found colored copper in the victim's stomach. What was found in the man's mouth was a red leaf in the north, and there was nothing special about the knife on the ground. But according to these three clues, Lincoln still thought of a place that used to be the largest oyster farm. Until decades ago, it was dismantled and transformed into a train station. And the material for the roof, it's the kind of colorful copper green, and there are hundreds of red ivy around it. Soon the police found it again according to the clues. As expected, a victim was found in the center of the station.